Would you propose to someone if you found out they were actively trying to manipulate you into doing it? I never thought I'd be asking that question. But here we are. So I'm 28. My girlfriend's 27. We've been together almost 3 years, and we've lived together for most of that. And up until recently, I would have told you, without hesitation, that she's the person I'm going to marry. Like, this wasn't some situationship. We built a life together. We split rent. We grocery shop together. We argue about what show to watch and then end up re-watching the same comfort series anyway. Our families get along. Holidays are smooth. No cheating, no scandals, no dramatic breakups and makeups. Just stable. I had a ring picked out. Not bought yet, but picked out. Saved in my notes. I'd looked at it multiple times. Imagined how I'd do it. I wanted it to be meaningful. I wanted her to be surprised. I thought that mattered. And we had talked about marriage. I told her it was coming. I just didn't give a date. Because in my head, that kind of ruins the whole point. I didn't think that meant I wasn't serious. But about 6 months ago, something started to change. At first it was small. She'd joke about it. So when are you finally putting a ring on it? Or she'd send me TikToks about proposals. Normal stuff. I laughed it off. I figured she was just excited. Then the jokes stopped feeling like jokes. Every minor disagreement somehow circled back to the proposal. If I forgot to do the dishes? Wow, husband material. If we disagreed about something random? Maybe this is why you haven't proposed yet. It became this weird undercurrent in everything. Like there was always this invisible timer counting down in the background, and I didn't know how much time I had left. I started feeling less excited about proposing and more anxious about it. And then last week happened. I was home, she wasn't. Her iPad was on the couch. A message preview popped up from her group chat with her friends. And yeah, I know I shouldn't have clicked it. I know that. I'm not proud of that part. But I did. And I wish I hadn't. Because it wasn't just venting. It wasn't just why hasn't he proposed yet? It was strategy. Actual strategy. They were talking about ways to push me into proposing. Like coordinated tactics. One friend suggested she start giving me the cold shoulder. Another said she should stop putting effort into the relationship so I'd feel the shift. Someone else said to withhold intimacy so I'd panic. There was even a whole conversation about using her birthday as a deadline, basically implying that if I didn't propose by then, she'd make it clear she had other options. Reading that, I don't even know how to describe it. It felt humiliating. Like I was some guy in a training exercise. Like my relationship was a group project they were all workshopping. And the craziest part? I had been planning to propose. That's what makes this hurt the most. If she had just waited a little longer, it would have happened naturally. Not because I felt cornered. Not because I felt threatened. But because I wanted to. So when she got home, I didn't yell. I didn't explode. I just asked her straight up, have you been trying to push me into proposing using these tactics? She didn't deny it. She said yes. She said she was tired of waiting. That 3 years is long enough. That if I was serious, I would have already done it. That she just wanted clarity and didn't want to waste any more time on someone who might not commit. And I get that. I really do. 3 years is significant. I understand wanting security. I understand wanting to know you're not just a placeholder. I'm not dismissing that at all. But there's a difference between communicating your needs and trying to manipulate someone into meeting them. When I told her that this whole thing made me not want to propose, at least not right now, she flipped it on me. Now I'm punishing her for having standards. Now I'm dangling marriage over her head to control her. Now I'm the bad guy because I invaded her privacy by reading the messages. And yeah, I crossed a line by clicking that chat. I can own that. But I can't ignore what I saw. Because here's what's really messing with me, it's not even about the proposal anymore. It's about trust. If she felt anxious about the timeline, we could have had a real conversation. A serious one. We're adults. We live together. We share bills. We could have sat down and said, hey, I need a clearer idea of when this is happening. Instead, it turned into tactics. Into pressure. Into subtle emotional games. And now I'm sitting here wondering if this is how she handles uncertainty. What happens when we hit real stress? What happens when we disagree about money? About kids? About where to live? Is the response going to be collaboration? Or strategy? Marriage is supposed to be choosing each other. Freely. Not because one person outlasted the other. Not because someone felt backed into a corner. I wanted to propose when it felt right. When it felt like we were solid and excited and aligned. But now it feels like if I propose, it confirms that manipulation works. And that scares me. Because I don't want to build a life on that foundation. At the same time, I'm not blind to her side. I know social pressure is real. I know seeing friends get engaged can mess with your head. I know women especially get told there's some invisible timeline. I'm not insensitive to that. But is it wrong that I want to feel like my proposal is a choice, not a response to an ultimatum? I haven't broken up with her. I haven't said never. I just said I'm off the proposal train for now. That this whole thing made me take a step back. And now everything feels tense. Like we're in this weird standoff where she thinks I'm withholding marriage to prove a point, and I'm trying to figure out if the person I thought I was going to marry sees our relationship as something to manage instead of nurture. I honestly don't know what the right answer is here. If you were planning to propose, and then found out your partner was coordinating ways to pressure you into it, would you still go through with it? Or would that change everything for you too? Update. And here's the part one didn't expect. After that conversation, things got quiet. Not explosive. Not dramatic. Just tense. Like we were both walking around the apartment trying not to step on emotional landmines. We'd still talk about normal stuff, work, dinner, random memes, but there was this heavy thing sitting between us at all times. And the worst part? I started second-guessing everything. Every time she was distant, I wondered, is this real, or is this another tactic? If she didn't initiate affection, I'd think, is she hurt, or is this part of the plan? If she was extra nice, I'd think, is this genuine, or damage control? That's when I realized the real damage wasn't about the proposal. It was about trust. Once you start questioning whether your partner's behavior is authentic, it messes with your head in a way that's hard to explain. A few days later, we finally had a real sit-down conversation. No phones. No distractions. Just us at the kitchen table. I told her something I hadn't fully said before. I wasn't dragging my feet. I was planning it. I wanted it to be special. I didn't want you to see it coming. She looked genuinely shocked. And when I told her I had a ring picked out, she just stared at me. She asked to see it. I showed her the picture I'd saved. And I could literally see the moment it clicked for her that this wasn't some vague, someday idea in my head. She started crying. Not dramatic sobbing. Just quiet tears. She said she felt stupid. She said her friends kept telling her that if a guy hasn't proposed by 3 years, he's stalling. That if he was sure, he'd lock it down. She said every time one of her friends got engaged, it made her feel like she was falling behind. Like she was the only one who didn't have certainty. And instead of telling me how deep that anxiety went, she vented to them. And they hyped each other up. And somewhere along the way it stopped being about communication and started being about control. She admitted that some of the tactics had already started. The cold shoulder thing. Picking little fights. Pulling back physically sometimes. And hearing her say that out loud honestly hurt more than reading it. Because it meant I wasn't crazy for feeling the shift. I told her that what scared me wasn't her wanting commitment. It was the idea that when she feels insecure, her first instinct is to strategize instead of talk to me. That's when she said something that stuck with me. She said, "I was afraid if I pushed too directly, you'd realize you didn't actually want to marry me." And that's the irony. The more she tried to push indirectly, the more she created the exact doubt she was afraid of. We ended up talking for hours. About timelines. About expectations. About the pressure women feel. About the pressure men feel to have everything perfectly planned before making that move. About how social media has turned proposals into public performances instead of private decisions. It wasn't one of those movie conversations where everything magically resolves. But it was real. For the first time in months, it felt like we were actually on the same side of the table again. Now here's the update part. We didn't break up. But I also didn't propose. We agreed on something that honestly should have happened way earlier, clarity without coercion. We talked about a realistic time frame. Not a surprise date, not a deadline with threats attached, just an honest window. I told her I need to feel like we're choosing each other freely, not reacting to fear. She said she needs reassurance that I'm not just comfortable but intentional. So we started couples counseling. I know that sounds dramatic for a couple that hasn't even gotten engaged yet. But I'd rather fix communication now than after signing legal documents. Counseling has been eye-opening. I've learned that I avoid giving timelines because I'm scared of disappointing people. She's learned that when she feels insecure, she seeks validation from others before addressing the source directly. Neither of us is a villain. But both of us handled it badly. And here's the part I'm still wrestling with. A few weeks ago, I looked at the ring again. And for the first time since all this happened, I didn't feel pressure when I saw it. I felt cautious. But not resentful. That feels like progress. She's also distanced herself from the friends who were pushing the manipulation angle. Not cut them off completely, but she told them clearly that it went too far. That surprised me, in a good way. Things aren't perfect. Sometimes I still have flashes of doubt. Sometimes she still gets anxious when she sees another engagement post online. But now we talk about it instead of letting it turn into subtle warfare. I'm not going to lie, part of me still wonders if this revealed something fundamental about how we handle conflict. And I'm taking that seriously. But another part of me recognizes that long-term relationships aren't about never messing up. They're about how you repair when you do. Right now, we're in repair mode. No proposal yet. No breakup either. Just two people trying to figure out if this foundation is strong enough to build the rest of our lives on. And I guess that's where I leave it. If you were in my position, knowing she panicked, knowing you were planning to propose anyway, knowing you both handled it imperfectly, would you see this as a red flag you can't ignore? Or as a rough chapter you work through before taking the next step? All right, here's the final update. And yeah, a lot has happened. So after months of counseling, long talks, awkward silences, and rebuilding trust, I finally made a decision. But it's probably not the dramatic twist people expect. About 4 months after that big kitchen table conversation, things genuinely felt different. Not forced. Not tense. Just steady. The pressure was gone. She stopped making comments about timelines. I stopped reacting defensively anytime marriage came up. We were communicating better than we had in a long time. Counseling helped more than I thought it would. It wasn't about blaming anyone, it was about patterns. And we both saw ours clearly. She admitted something in one of the sessions that really stuck with me. She said, "I thought if I didn't push, I'd lose you. But pushing almost made me lose you anyway." And I admitted that I tend to shut down emotionally when I feel cornered instead of saying, "Hey, this is making me uncomfortable." We weren't enemies. We were just scared in different ways. But here's where the story shifts. Even though things improved, something in me never fully reset. I tried to ignore it at first. I told myself, "You're overthinking. Everyone messes up. You work through it." And logically? That's true. But marriage isn't just logic. It's instinct. It's that deep internal yes. And every time I pictured proposing now, there was hesitation where excitement used to be. Not anger. Not bitterness. Just hesitation. One night, about 6 months after everything blew up, I was holding the ring box in my hand. I'd finally bought it. It was sitting in my drawer for weeks. I thought I was waiting for that perfect moment. But standing there in our bedroom, I had to be honest with myself. I wasn't waiting for the perfect moment. I was waiting to feel 100% sure again. And I didn't. That realization hurt more than anything else in this whole situation. Because I still loved her. She's a good person. She owned her mistake. She did the work. We both did. But sometimes growth doesn't automatically restore what cracked. So I asked her to sit down with me again. And I told her the truth. I told her I don't think I'm ready to marry her anymore. Not because of one argument. Not because she wanted commitment. But because when trust shifted, something foundational shifted with it. And even though we repaired a lot, I couldn't honestly promise forever without doubt creeping in. She didn't yell. She didn't call me manipulative. She just got really quiet. And then she said, "So all this work, and it's still not enough?" That question crushed me. But I told her it wasn't about enough. It wasn't about her failing some test. It was about me needing certainty before making a life decision. And if I had to force myself into certainty, that wasn't fair to either of us. We talked for hours. Cried. Replayed everything. The good years. The plans. The apartment we talked about buying. The dog we wanted. And in the end, we made the hardest decision we've ever made. We ended it. Not explosively. Not with hatred. Just with this sad understanding that sometimes love and compatibility aren't the same thing. She moved out 2 months later. The apartment feels different now. Quieter. Bigger. Emptier. Do I regret not proposing before all this happened? Sometimes. Do I regret walking away when I couldn't fully commit? No. Because here's what I learned. You can't propose out of pressure. You can't marry someone to fix insecurity. And you definitely can't build a future hoping doubt will just disappear. That whole situation forced me to ask myself a question I think a lot of people avoid. Am I choosing this person because I'm sure or because it feels like the next step? I don't hate her. I don't think she's manipulative at her core. I think she panicked. I think social pressure got to her. I think her friends amplified her fears. And I think I underestimated how important reassurance was to her. We both made mistakes. But marriage isn't something you enter hoping the cracks won't matter later. It's been a few months now. I'm focusing on myself. Therapy individually. Rebuilding routines. Figuring out who I am outside of a 3-year relationship. And sometimes I still think about that ring. It's sitting in a drawer. Maybe one day I'll give it to someone. But next time, it'll be because there's zero doubt. No pressure. No strategy. No deadlines. Just a calm, steady, undeniable yes. So I guess I'll end it with this. If you found out your partner tried to manipulate you into proposing, and you worked through it, but something in you still felt off, would you stay and hope that feeling fades? Or would you walk away before almost sure it turns into a lifelong regret?